Oh, hello, this is Tak Chung from Walk with Tak. Welcome to our YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Feel free to write to me at walkwithtak@gmail.com if you have any question regarding to this video or any other videos that I posted in the past. If you have any videos that you would like me to make, let me know. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And my wife recently showed me an article that it lists what is known as superfood. This type of food that's supposed to make you healthier. And one of the superfoods in this list is about cooking oil. And the cooking oil that has achieved the greatest attention is extra virgin olive oil, or frequently known as EVOO. If you ask around, very few people use extra virgin olive oil for stir frying. The reason is that it has a low smoking point. For example, I always use canola oil for stir frying because canola oil has a high smoking point. And the reasoning is that if it has a high smoking point, it is easier to season a wok. A general idea of seasoning a wok, as shown here with my spot seasoning method, is that you heat up the oil until it reaches its smoking point. And usually the best oil for stir frying are having a smoking point about 450 degrees higher. And there are probably two assumptions to make about a high smoking point. One is that maybe it is better for seasoning the wok. Now, a wok is seasoned by what is known as polymerization. Basically, is that when the oil are close to its smoking point, will join with each other to form polymers. And this polymers is like a channeling fence. It covers the surface of the wok, and it gives the wok a non-stick cooked surface. And oil with a high smoking point is supposed to be better in seasoning a wok. Now, for stir frying, a non-stick cooked surface is absolutely essential. And when you fry an egg, you do not want the egg to stick to the surface of the wok. And this is particularly important when you fry things like noodles. Now, here is a pan-fried noodles that I cook using canola oil. And the reason it is important is because noodle has a very high tendency to stick to the surface of the wok. When that happens, the noodle dish will be ruined. So it is essential that you have to make sure your wok has a non-stick cooked surface. So therefore, when you use a stainless steel wok, a cast iron wok, or carbon steel wok, you want to make sure that your wok has a non-stick cooked surface. I developed this spot seasoning method for seasoning a stainless steel wok, and it worked really well. When I use this method, I can cook a pan-fried noodles without the noodles sticking to the surface of the wok. I have stir-fried for over 50 years, and during this time period, I have a lot of struggle with seasoning a wok. It was not until I discovered the spot seasoning method, I found out that I can season a wok in less than 15 to 20 seconds to create a non-stick cooked surface. I always choose an oil with a high smoking point. I first started with peanut oil, and then I switched to canola oil, partly because I feel that the canola oil has better nutritional quality, as well as less expensive than peanut oil. And I find that both work equally well. So my assumption is that why not spend money on things that I really do not need? In this case, both of this cooking oil has high smoking point. They are all around somewhere between 400 to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. This pan-fried noodle dish is a tough challenge because if your wok do not have a good non-stick cooked surface, the noodle will stick. And once it sticks, it will start to burn and the dish will be ruined. Over the years, I find that canola oil works extremely well for this purpose. And of course, once you have something that works, you do not want to make a switch. However, recently there's a lot of debate about cooking oil. Which cooking oil is the best? Which cooking oil is most nutritional? And which cooking oil that will work best for stir frying? And among all the cooking oil, extra virgin olive oil has been talked about repeatedly to be the most beneficial oil. It has great nutritional quality, and it has been shown to have many health benefits that other oil lacks. So I decided I'm going to give it a try. So the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to find out whether it is good for seasoning a wok to create a non-stick cooked surface. So I heat up the oil as I would normally do with canola oil. In this case, almost immediately after I add the EVOO to my wok, it starts to smoke almost immediately. Now this is a good indication is that EVOO has a much lower smoking point. My wok is actually too hot. And normally I heat up the oil in the wok, but I do not want it to be so hot that the oil to smoke right away. I turn down the heat immediately and I add an egg to the wok. I definitely want to control the oil film because I do not want to fill my kitchen with oil films. This reaction bears witness to the fact that olive oil has a lower smoking point in comparison to canola oil, that why it starts to smoke almost immediately. Now next, I'll ask the question, does it create a non-stick cook surface? As you can see here, the egg does not stick to the surface of the wok at all. What it suggests is that the olive oil actually seasoned the wok really well. And from what I read earlier, is that olive oil is not good for stir frying because it do not season the wok properly. But this is definitely not the case because the egg do not stick to the surface of the wok at all, which means the olive oil does a really good job. In fact, it does as a good job as canola oil in seasoning the wok. So if this is the case, then it's probably very good for stir frying. So the next step is to try the ultimate test, pan fried noodles. After the first experience, I got a little bit smarter. I do not heat up the wok as much as I would normally do with canola oil. Because usually the best way to control the oil films is to heat up the wok, so when you add the oil to the wok, it will take about maybe 20 to 30 seconds before the oil starts to smoke. In this case, you can have much better control how much oil film is going to be produced. Because when you do the spot seasoning, you do not need to have the wok to smoke profusely. And to reduce the amount of oil film production, you can turn down the heat. All you have to do is that to let the oil to smoke gently for about 15 to 20 seconds. And this is what I'm going to do now with the olive oil. So in this case, you probably that the oil film is hardly detectable because it is under control. And I let that go on for about 15 to 30 seconds, and then I add the noodles to the wok. I use about 2 tablespoons of olive oil, not excessive amount of oil, which is about usually the same amount that I use with canola oil. So after I add the noodle to the wok, I use a pair of tongs to separate the noodles apart, because this noodle has been kept in the refrigerator for about 48 hours. And this turned out to be an essential step to prevent the noodles get burned and stick to the bottom of the wok. I discovered that if I use a pair of tongs to coat the noodle with oil, it will prevent it from sticking. In here, I add a little bit more oil because it seems like I might not have enough oil to coat all of the noodles. In order to prevent the noodles from sticking to the bottom of the wok, I use the wok spatula to scrape off whatever that might seem to have a slight sticking. This usually happens even with canola oil when you first add the noodles to the wok. And the sticking is not bad at all. And then I switch back to my long-handled tongs and start to toss the noodles. During this period, I keep the temperature of the burner relatively low. I have no oil film production. And the goal of this dish is to brown the noodles, or maybe char it slightly, but not to burn the noodles. And when I pan fry these noodles with the olive oil, and one major difference that I did is that because I know the olive oil has lower smoking point, so I keep the burner setting a little bit lower than I normally would with canola oil. It might take a little bit longer to pan fry the noodles, but I want to make sure that I do not generate too much oil film. At the same time, I do not want to burn the noodles. Up to this point, I really do not see any significant differences between olive oil and canola oil in pan frying the noodles. I think the olive oil is hot enough to brown the noodles in the same way as I would brown the noodles when I use canola oil. And I believe I probably could have turned the heat a little bit higher, and that might cook it a little bit faster, but the time difference is not going to be great, probably just about a couple minutes. So far, actually, I'm really pleased with the outcome using the olive oil. And I really do not find there any significant drawback in using the olive oil in pan frying this dish. So based on this result, I really think olive oil actually would do very well with stir frying. The only difference is that you need to start the wok not as hot as if you have been using canola oil. And you need to understand that olive oil has a lower smoking point. But the ability of the olive oil to season the surface of a stainless steel wok actually is no different from canola oil. And that was very surprising to me. EVOO is known to be a cold-pressed oil. It's oil that do not go through the normal extraction process like refined oil. And consequently, EVOO contain many other substances, which are frequently known as contaminants. The presence of these chemicals reduce the smoking point of EVOO. However, they also represent the nutritional quality of EVOO. And my wife loves pan-fried noodles, so she has a very discriminating taste. So when I ask her whether she sees any difference between these pan-fried noodles that are cooked with EVOO versus the pan-fried noodles that are normally cooked with canola oil, and her answer is that no. And personally, I cannot find any differences either. So from this point on, I'm going to try stir-fry with EVOO more. I will report to you my findings in future videos. I post a video each day to help those of you who would like to make home cooking as part of your daily routine using my fast cooking system. I hope to make home cooking that is practical, efficient, creative, and fun. So if you'd like to learn more about my fast cooking system, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. So keep on cooking, and I will see you tomorrow.